Hi, I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which brings you the big G for the gospel of Jesus Christ and little g, all the good things that people do to put that gospel of life into action. Hey gang, we have a little bit of a different show for you today because we have a wonderful lady who is a real media star. A media star. That's what we have for you today. What do I mean by a media star? Well, she is involved with radio, television, worldwide, because she works sometimes with EWTN worldwide. She's written books. How about that? And she also helped to direct retreats for people who want to enrich their marriage, and also for men who are in the permanent diaconate with their wives. Her husband, Dom, he is a permanent deacon. And so, this lady is fantastic. And the last time I spoke with her, she was in Italy, and we were able to Zoom her in from Italy, which is fantastic. And she says her heart is still in Italy. And you know what? I can understand that because she brings a lot of the Italian culture into her, I'm going to call it a ministry. She has a wonderful ministry that she has. And she's even written a book about the wisdom of her mother from Jersey City. So we're going to talk about that too, okay? Teresa, a million welcomes. Teresa Tomeo, star of radio, TV, and the print media. Hey, how are you?
Wow, Father, that was quite the intro. I don't know if I can live up to that.
You certainly can. I know you for how many years? 30 years or something like that?
Oh, it's got to be at least 30 because we go way back because of Ave Maria University and the March for Life and Ave Maria Radio. So it's been, although we look really good because we're both Italian and we age well. So.
You see why I love her? The only thing, folks, she's maintained her fine skin texture. She's maintained her beautiful brunette hair. Look at me. I'm an old broken down, well, let's forget it. Let's leave it right there. Okay.
I think you still look great. You still have a lot of hair, right?
And it's mine. It's mine.
Yeah.
Hey, great. Teresa, I was telling everybody, you're famous. You're famous. We worked together. We did a couple of radio shows together with Ave Maria Radio. We used to go over to the March for Life in D.C., and you do the interviewing there. You were always so kind to me and to the law school students, making sure that we got interviewed, and now you're writing books, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show. I hope about the book that you wrote about your mother's wisdom. And folks, I got a little bit of a preview of this, and I could understand it. All these Italian mamas, they got the same ideas. Teresa, tell us what you've been doing these days, okay?
Well, it's been very busy. We just got back from a 2-month stay in Italy, as you know, Father, because you interviewed when I was over there, and we're already preparing for our next pilgrimage, which Deacon Dom and I are leading in November.
So folks could come on your pilgrimage. So you lead the pilgrimage. Hey, folks, she's going to give you some info about the pilgrimages, and we'll put it up on the screen. Maybe you want to go. You'll have a great time. Okay, continue.
Yes. We have about 10 seats left for the one that Deacon Dom and I are doing in November, which is fantastic. We'll give you the details. But we just also returned this past weekend from giving a diaconate retreat. You were mentioning that in the beginning for the Diocese of Austin, Texas. We had 100 people just this weekend. It was wonderful. We got there Thursday and led the retreat Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So in addition to my work, my pro-life work, and my interest in media activism and awareness, we really have a heart for the diaconate, and especially deacon couples, because oftentimes the wife is, as you know, very involved in formation because she has to support her husband. And then once the husband gets ordained, sometimes the wives can feel like, okay, what do I do now? So we believe that having retreats from time to time given by a deacon couple can help wives and husbands understand their roles better and how that marriage vocation comes first, even before the diaconate vocation. So we just wrapped up that retreat. We love to give diaconate retreats. We love to give marriage retreats. And we're just trying to enjoy the summer, but also keep busy at evangelization.
Hey, let's talk about just a little while about these retreats. You talked about how important it is in the formation as the husband is going through the diaconate program, how important it is to bring the wife on board. Now, I got a little bit of experience about this, not personal, folks, not personal, but I have friends who are Protestant pastors and even a couple of rabbi friends, and they tell me how important it is that their wife be part of the ministry. As a matter of fact, when they apply for a parish or for a synagogue, oftentimes they interview the wife too. She's part of the package deal, and this is part of the permanent diaconate too, because we want the wives on board. It's good for the marriage, but it's also good for the church. So could you tell us a little bit about that? What do you do with these retreats?
Well, we start out by giving our journey, our marriage journey, our healing journey, because our whole story is based on our marriage experience, in the sense that we came very close to divorce early on in our marriage because we were both consumed by the yuppiness, the young women professionals being very successful career-wise, but basically ignoring our marriage and our family responsibilities. And then we had make a long story short, we had a very powerful reversion. Dominic came back to the church first. I came back about a year after he did. And that eventually led him to discern the diaconate. It led me into Catholic media, leaving the secular media. And so we share our journey. We share our journey of marriage healing. We share our journey of faith. And then we share our journey to the diaconate. And the whole point of the retreats really are to help diaconate couples remember, not to be stuck in the past, but remember what the Lord has done. Oh, the Old Testament and New Testament, full of scriptures, as you well know, reminding us of what the Lord has done. Even our Blessed Mother's Fia, right? The Lord has done great things for me, and holy is his name. She talks about the greatness that he did in her life and continues to do. So we help couples go back down memory lane in a positive way to reflect on what God has done in the good times and the bad, so they can move forward. And yes, it's very, very important for the wives to be involved. They have to be supportive of their husbands during formation. They literally have to sign on the dotted line before their husband can go forward each year in formation. However, that's not to say that every single wife is going to be working beside her husband in church ministry. That's really a personal thing. There are really no rules according to the USCCB, under the diaconate formation team. You can figure that out on your own by prayer and discernment, but the couple still have to be in unison in terms of the wife supporting the husband's ministry, because it can have such an important impact on the marriage.
Right. And it's time consuming too. Folks, people forget that these permanent deacons, I've had wonderful permanent deacons with me, just outstanding men, and their wives were extremely supportive of them. But, you have to know that your wife is supporting you as a deacon because you're going to be doing things sometimes away from home. You're going to be
Right.
taking care of a lot of people and their needs. And you have to know that your wife is behind you. If you're doing this stuff and your wife is mad saying, hey, you're taking time away from me and the family, that ain't going to work, folks. So this is like a team effort, whether it's a very active involvement in the church or just, behind the scenes saying to your husband, hey, honey, that's great what you're doing, and I support you, and I'm praying for you all the way. Am I right, Teresa?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So now you've been involved as a deacon's wife, and there were certain ministries that you found attractive to both of you. You want to explain that? Like, what ministries does Dom do, and how do you aid in that? Or maybe, you have a little ministry of your own, and Dom, supports you in yours.
Well, even before Dom entered into the diaconate or even discerned it, Father, I was working in full-time ministry. I had left the secular media in the year 2000 and started my own communications company. And then I was hired by Al Cresta and Tom Monahan at Ave Maria Radio. And I've been working there ever since. It'll be 21 years this year that I'll be hosting Catholic Connection. So I was pretty much full on writing and speaking at that point. And so I came in and I really supported Dom, but I was technically doing my own thing on the side. Now, what we do together as a deacon couple is, as I mentioned, we do a lot of these retreats for diaconate couples. We also do a lot of work in marriage ministry because of our own testimony. We really believe in providing a source of encouragement for engaged couples and married couples. We host the World Marriage Day dinner every year. We have a big dinner in February celebrating World Marriage Day here in the Archdiocese of Detroit. So we MC that, which is a lot of fun. So those are the main areas that we work together. Now, in terms of pro-life, we're both very involved in the pro-life movement. My husband is on the board of Mary's Mantle, which is a home for pregnant women. And I'm also very involved, as you know, in the pro-life movement, doing a lot of media awareness and media activism with the March for Life. And then Dom also works as a sidewalk counselor and has for many years with Helpers of God's Precious Infants on the streets of Detroit. So that's something he does on his own. I don't feel called to do that particular area of pro-life ministry, probably because I'm too emotional and I don't know if I could, and I mean that sincerely, mentally handle it, because I probably would break down knowing what's going on inside and knowing so many women who are post-abortive. I just don't know if that's the kind of ministry for me, but that's okay because there's all kinds of different pro-life ministries. So then we speak together on a number of issues. And then Dom, of course, I call him, he's my CFO and my CEO. He's my chief financial officer because he's really good at math. And he's my CEO. He helps me run my company, Teresa Tomeo Communication. So we do some areas of ministry together, and then others we don't. And I think it's important for couples, even if they're not in a diaconate situation, that if they're faithful Catholics and they're working in the church, to kind of see, okay, you should have a combination of both. It shouldn't be where you're totally separate, where he's doing his thing and she's doing hers. A little bit of that is fine. But if you want to have a good, strong marriage, you should come, and we talk about this at our retreats, you should be coming together in some sort of at least prayer activity, definitely prayer and reading scripture, maybe doing the liturgy of the hours together, or just the mass readings together, going to mass together, to make sure you're in sync. You may have obviously the same Catholic beliefs, but doing your own thing all the time, we don't think is healthy. There has to be some area of prayer life, at least, together as a couple.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Teresa, because a lot of our viewing audience, you mentioned liturgy of the hours. A lot of people, they don't know what that is. Could you explain that to them? Because praying together is very important.
Well, of course, as a priest, you do that every day. As a deacon, my husband does that every day. But many people do Liturgy of the Hours, which basically is prayer several times a day. I think that's the best way to explain it, where you're coming and you're dedicating a certain part of the day to God in prayer and reciting, certain areas of scripture. And if you want to get a good idea of what that looks like, I would suggest for people who aren't familiar with the format, to look at something called the Magnificat. The Magnificat is a great daily Bible study that you can do on your own. It's basically the mass readings, but they give you morning prayer, and then they give you the daily mass readings, and they give you evening prayer. So it's prayer several times a day. So the structure is not quite as long, but it's similar to Liturgy of the Hours that is prayed by the priests and by the deacons. And it's really nice because you get yourself into a format, a regular format of coming together in prayer, either by yourself or hopefully with your spouse. And it's so powerful because if you're doing the reflections, I love the Magnificat. Dom likes the Word Among Us in addition to doing the Liturgy of the Hours. He likes to read the Word Among Us. And so what we do oftentimes is we take both devotionals, both Catholic devotionals, and we'll sit down and we'll do the scriptures together. Then I'll read the reflection from the Magnificat, and he'll read the reflection from the Word Among Us, which is another publication, and they're all available online. They're great resources. And so you get a different perspective from a different writer. And then because our personalities are so different, we will not interpret the readings differently. Obviously, we don't want to go away from what the church teaches, but we'll have a different insight. So that's a great way to grow in faith, to learn something from your spouse, but also to get a different perspective.
I want to second Teresa's comments. I want to second her comments. Magnificat is a wonderful resource. I use it myself every day. And there's some wonderful readings that come along with it for meditation. I highly, highly recommend it, folks. Magnificat, go online, get yourself, it comes every month, and you can pray by yourself or with other people. If you are involved with pro-life, prayer is the basic foundation. Yep. You're not going to go anywhere without prayer. Now, Teresa, I want to go another step with you now. You've been involved with pro-life a long time. Both of us know the past, 50 years of what we've had to put up with, things we had to do, Roe v. Wade, the marches in Washington. What's your feeling about what's going on today? Where are we going? What should we do? What shouldn't we do?
Well, I think we should stay the course and be stronger than ever. I just interviewed Jeannie Mancini from the March for Life just recently on my program.
Yeah, she's great. She heads March for Life, folks. Jeannie Mancini, personal friend of Father O. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, she's incredible. She worked with us up in the Archdiocese of Detroit before she went down to D.C. But she was on and she said some people were thinking because of the Dobbs decision coming down last June, a year ago in June, that the March for Life is going to be moved from January, the anniversary, January 22nd, to June. But they decided to keep it in honor of all those years of hard work and fighting against Roe v. Wade, plus the fact that it would be very difficult to get a lot of people to come at the end of June, graduation parties. You couldn't get school buses to go because school would be out. So from a practical perspective, I think that's a great idea. So I think we need to keep marching. The other thing that's happening, and you're probably familiar with this, in addition to the National March for Life Washington, Jeannie's group, is actually meeting up with people at the state level. We're having a major march in Michigan in November.
Boy, you need
March
it
for
there.
Life is
You
also-
need it there. Holy cow, what's
Yeah,
happened?
yeah,
My
yeah.
gosh.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show we could do on our
That
on our governor,
Gretchen governor, whatever her name is. Wow.
Gretchen
I'm
Whitmer.
going to tell you,
Yeah.
I'm going to talk Italian. Disgraziata, vergogna. All right, I got it
Yeah.
off my chest.
Yeah, yeah. It's very frustrating. You got to pray for her. There's just so much going on in our state.
As you can imagine, producing this wonderful program, Action for Life, it costs a great deal of money. We're going to need your help. So if you would like to donate to keep this good news program on the air, please go to your computer, your cell phone, actionforlife.net. Hey gang, I know a lot of you sometimes can't watch all of our episodes of Action for Life. However, we have a solution for that. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for Action for Life Florida. And you can catch up on all the shows, and guess what? Extra added bonus, you get to hear my weekly homily. So, YouTube and you make a fine couple.
So you've got a lot of these state marches that are really important. It's really important for us to continue showing up. And do not lose heart. When Jeannie was on the program, she outlined all the different efforts that have been able to come forward since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. A lot of these laws that have been put in place, at least 16 to 18 states now have greater restrictions on abortion, and thousands of babies, Father, have been saved because of the actions that went into place once Roe v. Wade was overturned. So I think we need to stay the course. I think we need to continue to engage the culture. I think we need to speak up with our pocketbooks. And I think we've been doing that. I think if you look what happened, for example, and this is all under the pro-life realm, right? Under the pro-life umbrella. If you look what happened, for example, with Bud Light, if you look at, example, what happened with Target, if you look what's happening with this beautiful film that just came out, The Sound of Freedom, which is doing so well at the box office. Americans, and especially pro-life and pro-family Americans, are saying no to the wokeness, no to the woke agenda. You will not shove it down our throats. We will peacefully respond, but strongly respond. And we've had a major impact, and we need to keep on doing that. We are gaining ground. It's really important to stay the course and do not be overcome by the darkness. The media wants you to think it's the end of the world, the sky is falling, the church is imploding. No, we need to stay the course and keep our eyes on Christ.
Yeah, you know what, well, folks, a lot of times today, people are afraid they're going to get canceled. Oh, come on. It's like when the disciples were locked up in jail, said, oh my, what are we going to do now? We're locked up in jail. We're never going to get the word out. And all of a sudden, an angel comes and opens the jail door, and they're out there on the street again. And it's a wonderful thing. You know, with the Red Rose Rescue, it's amazing. Monica Miller.
Yeah.
They locked her up, and then she was evangelizing in jail. It was fantastic.
She was on my show talking about that. She wrote a whole article about how she evangelized. However, I will say, you know what her maiden name is, don't you?
Migliorino. Migliorino.
She's Italian.
That's Italian, folks. Well, speaking about Italian, you wrote a book. It's kind of called like The Wisdom of Your Mother. Now, Mama was from a place called Jersey City. There was a large, at one time, Italian community there. I don't know if it's there anymore, but Jersey City has kind of changed in a lot of ways. It's where the Colgate clock is on the Hudson River, if you know the Colgate clock, along Riverside Drive. How do you like that? But anyway, it's become yuppified now, and I guess a lot of the Italians have moved out, except the smart ones kept their houses and the apartment houses, and they're making
worth $1 gazillion.
Yeah, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Anyway, tell us about your mother and the book. I mean, this book is great.
Well, I should get, I know we're going to mention Listening for God. I have the poster behind me. You can see that. That was the book that I wrote right before
Uh-huh.
my Rosie book about my mom. So the Rosie book, I don't have it in front of me. I should go grab it for you if I can find it. It's close by. But the book is called, and you can go to my website, teresatomeo.com, to get more information. But the book is called Everything's Coming Up, Rosie, 10 Things I've Learned about 10 Things My Feisty Italian American Mother Taught Me About Living a Godly Life. And so what I did, Father, is I took her those little, we call them Rosieisms, those sayings that Italian moms and Irish moms and good Polish moms and moms who came up from that strong, ethnic Catholic, strong upbringing. And a lot of them were on the East Coast. And they said these things to us that we thought were kind of quirky when we were growing up. But when we think and reflect upon them, we realize just how important they are. And I'd roll my eyes and say, oh, here we go again. But then as I was going through my own issues in my life and then working as a pro-life speaker and a media expert and looking at the craziness of the world, I realized the depth and the wisdom in those sayings. So I took the sayings, I took 10 of them. She had many, I could probably write 4 volumes, but I took those sayings and I broke each one down. One of the first things she would always say, and I think this is the most important, is offer it up to God and put it at the foot of the cross. And so I spell out the phonetic pronunciation of that, because I think it's important. It has a lot more drama. And so what she was talking about there is redemptive suffering. And then I talk about the Blessed Mother, MOTHA, is watching you, right? Our Lady in our life, and how we have to call on her to protect us and intercede for us. And then listen to your mother, as in your mom, but also as in Holy Mother Church. That gives us an idea of some of the sayings in that book. And it's funny, but it's also it's serious theologically in terms of helping people dive into the simple truths about the faith that are time tested and are never going away. I had fun reading the book.
See, folks, we have what we call an incarnational religion. That means Jesus came into our world and became one of us. And, when he becomes one of us, he enters into our life. And it doesn't stop, well, he ascended into heaven and he's not here anymore. Well, he is here. His word, his message is here through Scripture, through the church, but it's also here through smart people who have garnered wisdom over their lifespan. And a lot of mothers have that, they just have a lot of wisdom. When you're young, a lot of times, you think, your mother, she's just, some lady, and you just kind of blow off what she says. But as you get old, you begin to think about it and you say, gee, she was pretty smart. She was right about that one. I mean, I had one of my brothers, he used to, I used to tease him, I guess, but then he'd lash back at me. And I say, Mama, look what he did. And she would say to me, offer it up for the love of God. the same thing. But, we forget that whole sense of sometimes offering something up. Sometimes we feel like we're offended. Somebody offended us and we're hurt and we're angry. Yeah, offered up for the love of God. I mean, look at Jesus,
right.
He got beat up, slapped in the face by people who were like pipsqueaks. And he just offered it up, and he just took it. And, look what came of that. Came of that was, unfortunately, his death. But then, guess what? God pulled it out of the bag for us with the resurrection. So, yeah, you got to get a copy. You got to get a copy of this book.
Well, also, I would recommend, you see the sign behind me, Listening for God, because they go really well together. Listening for God came out 2 years before the Rosie book. The Rosie book just came out this May. But they work nicely together, because in the Listening for God, my mother would say, listen to your mother, the Blessed Mother is watching you, these sayings. We don't listen enough right now, Father, and we don't take time to reflect and pause, which is one of the reasons why we promote pilgrimage so much, so people can get away from the everyday and listen to God, but also listen for God. With all the media, adults are consuming 12 and a half hours of media per day. 12 and a half hours of media per day.
Wow.
We check our cell phones 63 times a day.
Holy cow.
I would like to think that people are listening to us and watching us all the time with all that media, but unfortunately, they're probably taking in a lot of stuff that isn't good for them. So that's why listening for and to God, and listening to our mother, as in our own mom, so Holy Mother Church, those things work hand in hand.
So now this other book, Listening to God. And when you do
Listening for God.
Listening for God. When you do your pilgrimage, do you integrate this, so your pilgrimage is like a retreat almost, a true pilgrimage where you're teaching and you're praying and you're learning. When do you do the next pilgrimage?
Yes.
When's the next pilgrimage?
The next pilgrimage is in November, and it's entitled La Dolce Fide, The Sweetness of Faith, and Deacon Dom and I are leading it, and we start November 2nd, and we are going to Assisi, we're going to Viterbo, we're going to Orvieto for the Eucharistic miracle, we're going to Greccio, where St. Francis established the first crèche. We're also going to Tarquina to learn more about the Etruscans. Of course, we're going to Rome, and we're going to have wonderful meals and wine tastings and Mass every single day, and plenty of time for reflection. We actually built in that time, Father, off time for the pilgrims. And it's funny, I had a woman write me the other day, and she said, well, how come we don't have anything to do in Rome the second morning that we're there? And I said, because you need time to reflect. I mean, the first day when you get up after we arrive in Rome, it's the end of the trip, and you go and you're on this whirlwind, and you're going to St. Peter's, and you're going to the major basilicas, and you know how overwhelming and incredibly powerful that is. And then the next day we take them to ancient Rome. So we're going to take them to the Forum and the Colosseum and getting to see all these different things. But you have to stop and you have to think about what you've seen. What does it mean to me? What did I learn from that? Is there something new that I discovered about my faith? And how am I processing all of this beauty and information about not just Catholicism, but world history? I mean, it's just crazy. It's like life on steroids in Italy on so many levels.
Folks,
so we built,
you hear this? I feel like going myself. I mean, I have to.
Well, come with us.
I'll think about it.
It's so important to take that time, and people don't do it. They need a vacation from their vacation or their
pilgrimage. Pay attention when they get to home. Teresa. Not only was her mother smart, she's smart too. And we'll find a way to get you some information about how you could join this wonderful experience. Hey, folks, Teresa's for action. I'm for action, and I know you are too. We would like to thank our generous sponsors for their wonderful support. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Action for Life. I'm for action, and I hope you are too. I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the big G, and the little g, all the good things that people are doing to put the gospel of life into action. So please join us for the next episode of Action for Life.